Hi, I'm Reverend Jake Sabe, and welcome to Children's Bible Stories. Alright children, our Bible story for today is going to be the story of the women at the tomb. So, on Easter Sunday morning, there was a bunch of women that were coming to the tomb of Jesus. And they were coming to anoint Jesus with all the burial spices and stuff that he hadn't been anointed with on Good Friday, because they had to get him into the tomb so quickly. Normally there'd be this whole kind of burial ritual that a person went through where they'd embalm the body, cover him in spices, and they'd normally do that on the day when they died. But because of all the problems of getting Jesus off the cross and in the tomb before the Sabbath started, not just the Sabbath but the Passover and all that, they didn't have time to do the ritual properly. So the women were coming on Easter Sunday to do this ritual. And we need to ask, how many women were at the tomb, and which women actually came to the tomb? Now, according to the Gospel of John, he only mentions Mary Magdalene coming to the tomb. But the Gospel of Matthew mentions that there was Mary Magdalene and also the Mary, the mother of James the Less, was also there with her. And Mark's Gospel also mentions a woman of the name of Salome being there as well. And Luke also mentions that there was a woman named Joanna there as well. Now Luke doesn't mention Salome at all, so it is possible that maybe Salome and Joanna are the same woman. However, Luke says that the women at the tomb were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, Joanna, and the other women, which means that there may have actually been more women than just the four that we've got named. Now, the fact that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John all mention different ones coming, it may actually have been the fact that the women were all coming at different times from different places, and they were all going to meet up there, and they kind of got there at different times. This is actually taught in one of the early traditions in the early church, which is one of the legends around the Easter egg. The story goes that Mary Magdalene was coming to meet the other women at the tomb, and she was carrying a basket full of hard-boiled eggs for breakfast, and when she got to the tomb and saw it open, she dropped the basket of eggs, but all the eggs changed into pretty different colors. And so that's one of the legends of the Easter egg. But that's not in the Bible, so that's possibly a made-up story. What we know from Scripture is that Matthew said as the women were coming to the tomb, that's when the angel came down and rolled away the stone, and the soldiers, seeing this, fainted and became like dead men. However, Mark, Luke, and John all mention that when the women get to the tomb, the stone had already been rolled away. So basically the stone was rolled away as the women were coming. And we also know from Scripture that in John's account, Mary, seeing the tomb and seeing that Jesus isn't there, she doesn't stick around. She runs off to go and get Peter and John. As for the other women, they go and they look in the tomb. And in there they see two angels sitting at the head and the feet of where Jesus had been lying. And they say, "Don't be alarmed, you seek Jesus, who was crucified. He's not here. He has risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay, then go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen from the dead, and behold, he is going before you to Galilee. And then there you will see him. See, I have told you." And hearing this, the women then run off to go and tell the disciples. And while the women were running off to go tell the disciples, Jesus appears to the women along the way. However, John's Gospel mentions that Mary Magdalene, Peter, and John had arrived at the tomb and there was no one else there, and that Peter and John had looked in the tomb and seeing Jesus not there, they believed and went away. But that's when Mary cried and was wondering where Jesus was, and Jesus appeared to her and she mistook him for the gardener. Now what is interesting is that Matthew's Gospel mentions Jesus appearing to the other women as they were going off to find the disciples. But Mark's Gospel tells us that Jesus appeared to Mary Magdalene first. So to keep track of what has happened, children, just a quick summary. All the women came to the tomb. Mary Magdalene took off straight away. The other women stayed at the tomb and spoke with the angels. Those women then went off to go tell the disciples. While they were leaving, Mary Magdalene showed up with Peter and John. And after Peter and John left, Jesus appeared to Mary to speak with her. And then he disappeared and he went to also go and speak with the women on the road. So he went and caught up with them quickly as well before they got to the disciples. What is interesting is also the difference that happens between Mary meeting Jesus and the other women meeting Jesus. Because when Jesus spoke to Mary Magdalene, she tried to hug him and he said, "Don't hold on to me, Mary. I have to go to my Father." But when Jesus shows up to the women on the road, it says that they took hold of his feet and worshipped him. And Jesus allowed the women to do so. So you'd be saying, wait, why does Jesus say to Mary, "Don't touch me," but to these other women, "Hey, it's fine if you touch me"? Well, it's because of the differences in the touch. When Mary was trying to touch Jesus, she was saying like, don't go, you gotta stay with me, Jesus. And he's like, "No, Mary, I've gotta leave. Goodbye." But when these women were touching Jesus, it was more for them to see that he had really risen from the dead, in the same way that the Apostle Thomas got to touch Jesus to see that he had really risen from the dead. And so they were touching Jesus not to hold on to him and stop him from leaving, but so that they could see that he was real and that they could actually worship the resurrected Lord. That then, children, is our Bible story for the account of the women at the tomb. I've been your host, Reverend Jake Zabel. Goodbye and God bless.